All right, guys, you've chosen pathway number 3 for your e-learning project, and that's the total room makeover. So you're making over your bedroom with some new paint on the walls, some new flooring, buying a personal item that you're going to add to your room to try to spice it up a little bit and make that room your own. So today we're going to focus on just the wall portion of this project. So we need to paint these walls. Before we go to buy paint at the paint store, we have to know how much surface we're dealing with. So there's a phrase in math called surface area, and that's going to be the sum of all the surfaces or the faces in a three-dimensional figure that are going to be covered by some type of covering, whether it be wrapping paper or paint. In this example, the three-dimensional prism that you're painting is going to be your room. We don't have to worry about the ceiling. We don't have to worry about the flooring. That'll be taken care of by your carpet. But the other faces are going to be the walls. So if your room is a standard four-sided wall, like a rectangular prism shaped room, you're going to need to know the area of those four surfaces that are receiving paint, the four walls. Hopefully your room is nice and simple, rectangular in shape, where opposite walls are going to have the same length and width, which will give them the same area. Then you'll only have to figure two of your walls and you can just double it. So let's look at one wall here today. We're going to look at this wall of cabinets here and pretend that this is my bedroom wall that I'm going to be painting. So you want to get a measurement of the length and the width of your wall. Be really careful as you use your tape measure. Hopefully you have a tape measure at the house that you can use. But you definitely don't want to be standing on anything when you try to get these measurements. When you measure up from the ceiling down to the floor, you might need an adult to help you hold the tape measure. You might have to measure in chunks. So if I'm going to measure the ceiling to floor distance, I want to get up to the ceiling as high as I can. But again, I'm not going to stand on my bed or a desk. I'm just going to get it up there to the ceiling as best I can, and then I want to get it down as far as I can before I lose control of the tape measure, and I'm going to mark with my finger. So right there where my finger is 3 feet. So now I'm just going to make segments here. So that's 3 feet. I'm going to measure another segment. So down here is another 3 feet. So now I'm at 6. Now I can stoop down, measure another segment, and I went just past 3 feet and hit 3 feet 3 inches. That's a total of 3 feet 3 feet and then 3 feet 3 inches. So my total is 9 feet 3 inches. Now that's the width of the wall. For the length of the wall, I usually find it easier to go ahead and just put your tape measure on the ground, because unless you have somebody to hold the tape measure in place for you, you're going to lose control of that end. So the best way to do it is to stick it up against the adjacent wall to the one you're measuring so that it's all the way up against there, and just kind of feed that tape on the floor all the way across the length of the wall you're measuring. So as I do that, it stays nice and flat on the floor, easier than holding it up sideways and having the tape move on you. So I can see that I'm past 17 feet. I'm not quite to 18 feet. I'm at 17 feet 9 inches. So now that I know the dimensions of my wall, the length and the width, I can go ahead and I can determine the area. So we'll move over here to the screen and we'll show you those dimensions. So my length, we just found it was 17 feet 8 inches. The width, or the height of that wall, we found to be 9 feet 3 inches. When you have partial feet in play, it's kind of difficult to work with. Some of you guys that have multiplied mixed numbers before might know that 8 inches is just 8 out of the 12 inches you would need for that 18th foot. So 8/12 is a fraction. Unless you're comfortable multiplying mixed numbers, it would probably be best to go ahead and just round these values to the nearest feet. So how do we round? Well, we have to understand that our inches, it takes 12 of them to make another foot. When we get halfway to that next foot or higher, we can round up. So we got to consider what half of a foot is in inches. 12 inches is a foot, half of that would be 6 inches. So we're looking at our inch part, and we want to be at 6 inches or more before we round up. In my length, I was at 17 feet 8 inches. 8 inches is more than 6 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and round that up and call that wall about 18 feet long. I'm rounding up to that next foot. For the width, I want to look at the inch part. Now here I'm not to 6 inches yet. I didn't get to that 9.5 foot mark that would allow me to round up to 10 feet. So since we were only at 3 inches, not 6 or more, we're going to call that one about 9 feet. You probably recall from your math class that to find area, you're going to find and use the formula length times width. And you're going to plug in those values. So we have about 18 feet. And we're multiplying that by about 9 feet. That should give me a total area for the wall of 18 times 9. I know 10 times 9 is 90. 8 times 9 is 72. 90 and 72 would be 162 square feet. Now, one thing to consider here with your walls. If your wall is just drywall, you can paint all of that, and you'll want to paint all of that. It should all be the same color. You want to be really, really careful if you have a door on that wall or if there are windows on that wall. Do not paint over your doors or your windows. Painting over the window is going to reduce the functionality of that window. Windows are made to be seen out of and seen into. Paint is going to limit that. You don't want purple paint over the tops of your windows. Parents will get very irritated by that. So you've got to take that area and eliminate it from the total area of that wall. So if I had a room that had the same dimensions, 18 by 9, but I've got a window here that's 4 by 4, I would want to find the area of that window, 16 square feet, and then I would want to go back and subtract that from my overall area of 162 square feet to find out how much is actually being painted. Only do that when you have a door or a window. For our purpose here, for our total room, we just found that wall number 1 was 162 square feet. We're going to say that we've got an opposite wall across from it that's a parallel wall with the exact same dimensions. It's 18 by 9. So that's going to be another 162 square feet. Don't even have to measure it if it's exactly the same. Now we've got another pair of walls that are opposite that should have the same measurements. Let's say we measure those and we do our calculating and we find out that wall number 3 was a little smaller. It had an area of 140 square feet and it's parallel to the opposite wall that has the same area, another 140 square feet. Those are the 4 walls we're going to be painting. To get your surface area, then you're going to have to add those together. So now we know that we need 604 square feet of coverage from our paint that we buy. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to go and find paint and determine how many gallons you need to buy in order to cover 604 square feet of surface on the walls of your room.